The new Gate started as a revolutionary VR MMORPG, granting players unprecedented freedom in their adventures. However, it abruptly turned into a deadly battle, trapping players in the game with no means of logging out. Those who perished in the game faced the same fate in reality. On an open field, a group of skeletons engages players in combat. As the skeleton soldiers claim the lives of several players, a girl finds herself on the brink of defeat until a mysterious man gallantly comes to her rescue. Despite her curiosity about his identity, he remains focused on dispatching the skeletons. He's a determined player, relentlessly fighting in the hope of ending the game's deadly grip. Some time ago, he left behind his comrades to pursue this mission, promising to return. However, he found himself embroiled in a fierce battle against a formidable boss. Despite its massive size, the boss strikes swiftly, forcing the player to dodge with precision. Though he attempts to deal a fatal blow, the boss evades, sustaining only minor damage. Refusing to succumb to desperation, the player regains his composure. He observes the boss's HP regenerating and wounds healing, prompting him to take decisive action. With resolve, he charges towards the boss, determined to disrupt its regeneration. He attempts another lethal strike at the boss, but the boss manages to block it, staggering from the force. Seizing the opportunity, he delivers a devastating blow. Although hopeful for victory, the boss begins to heal once more. Determined to end the battle decisively, he prepares for a final, monumental attack. Empowering his sword, he charges at the boss, leaping into the air and delivering a crushing blow that reduces the boss to dust. With the boss defeated, the game system acknowledges his triumph and grants him new titles. It announces the possibility for players to log out now that the dungeon is cleared. Feeling accomplished, he checks if other players are logging out globally. However, he discovers that he is the sole remaining player on the online scroll. Shin, realizing he cannot log out, witnesses a massive gate opening behind him, suggesting he has completed the game. As he is absorbed into the game, he awakens in a remarkably lifelike grassy plain. Puzzled by the realism, he questions if he's truly in the game world, considering the limitations of VR technology. Upon examining his increased stats, he realizes something extraordinary has occurred. He deduces that his inability to log out is a result of defeating the final boss, indicating that he has completed the game. Despite this, he finds that the logout button is missing from the game screen. Attempting to check the online scroll for other players, he discovers that he's not connected to the game network. Perplexed by his ability to move without network connection, he realizes that the game world has become his new reality, causing him a moment of panic. However, he quickly resolves to maintain composure, understanding that panicking won't assist him. Utilizing an item that guides him back to his home base, he follows its lead. En route, he notices new structures along the roadside, prompting him to question when they were erected. Upon reaching his base, he witnesses a group of bandits coercing an elf girl to reveal her master's location. When she refuses, they forcibly drag her away from the base. As the elf girl crosses a barrier, triggering a colossal guard monster, the bandits flee while the creature menaces the girl. Reacting swiftly, Shin intervenes to confront the monster, realizing that he can adjust the potency of his magical ability, though physical exertion taxes him. Shin is astounded by the immersive realism of the game's world as they re-enter the base. The elf introduces herself as Tiara and inquires if Shin is acquainted with her master, Isekaied. Confused, Shin racks his memory for any recollection of the name. Suddenly, a memory surfaces. Isekaied was the name of an elf support character from the game, and Shin describes her appearance to Tiara. Seeking Isekaid's whereabouts, Shin presses Tiara for information, but she hesitates due to suspicion. Instead, she offers to convey a message to her master for a fee of 1,000 jewels. Having only jails in his possession, Shin retrieves them from his item box, surprising Tiara, who notes that only esteemed individuals possess such boxes. She further reveals that jails hold significant value, contrary to Shin's memory of them being lesser currency in the game. Puzzled by Shin's identity, Tiara learns he's merely an adventurer who chose the high human species at the game's start. To Shin's shock, Tiara informs him that high humans vanished 500 years ago during a period known as the Dusk of Prosperity, an event unfamiliar to Shin. Tiara explains it was a time marked by widespread disappearance, leaving Shin intrigued by this revelation. Shin connects the dots, realizing that the mass disappearance might coincide with the time when players trapped in the game vanish. It dawns on him that the world he's in now exists 500 years post-game events. Tiara brings Shin back to the present moment, and he expresses gratitude by offering her the 1 jail as a token of appreciation for her insights. Tiara declines the gift, deeming it imprudent to accept something of such value from a recent acquaintance. Shin assures her she need not return it, and Tiara, touched, reluctantly accepts it, relishing the opportunity to hold such a precious coin. Shin explains the utility of the jail coin for an elf like her, but Tiara is astonished that Shin can discern her elven heritage. She confides that she wears an illusion spell cast by her master to conceal her identity, as black-haired elves are considered omens of misfortune, leading to her expulsion from her village. However, her master intervened, rescuing her and providing sanctuary for over a century. Shin wonders if the curse can be lifted, prompting Tiara to reveal that her master is currently seeking a solution. Tiara confides in Shin that she's resigned to living in secrecy, but Shin ponders whether her hair has always been black. She reveals that her hair used to be silver until she was cursed, which caused it to turn black. Determined to help, Shin brainstorms potential solutions and realizes Tiara can be cured. He accesses his skill menu, prompting Tiara's curiosity about his actions. Using his analyze skill, Shin discovers that Tiara possesses the cursed gift, the source of her perpetual monster attacks. Although Tiara believes mere identification won't cure the curse, Shin employs his purify skill to heal her. As the skill concludes, Tiara questions whether it failed. Shin reassures her that the skill was successful, although only part of her hair reverted to silver. Surprised, Tiara rushes to inspect herself in the mirror. Despite the partial transformation, she sincerely thanks Shin for alleviating part of the curse, expressing gratitude for glimpsing her silver hair after a century of waiting. Moved by her gratitude, Shin suggests Tiara attempt to leave the barrier, assuring her of his protection against any monster threats. Though initially hesitant, Tiara decides to trust Shin's words and steps beyond the barrier, taking a leap of faith into the unknown. They traverse through a nearby forest until they reach a grassy plateau, where Shin informs Tiara that her curse has been lifted, evident from the absence of monster attacks during their journey. Overwhelmed with joy, Tiara sheds tears at the sight of the beautiful sky once more. Returning to the base, she expresses heartfelt gratitude to Shin for his assistance. As they await Tiara's master's arrival, she wonders about Shin's plans. He decides to explore a nearby town in search of his other support character and to familiarize himself with the new game world. Tiara provides him with a letter of instruction to present to the kingdom he spotted on his way to the base. Explaining that the letter will allow him to bypass the inspection line, Tiara jests about entrusting valuables to a stranger, but Shin accepts it graciously as a token of gratitude for helping her lift the curse. Promising to notify him upon her master's return, Tiara bids him farewell as he departs for the kingdom. Upon reaching the kingdom, Shin is surprised to find that the letter of introduction grants him the privilege of skipping the inspection line. He marvels at its significance, with the guard escorting him emphasizing its potential to secure an audience with the king. Guided to the Adventurers Guild, Shin plans to gather information and registers as an adventurer. To his surprise, he encounters the same person he met at the front door, realizing that she is the twin sister of the guild worker named Celica. Celica introduces herself and instructs Shin to pay an application fee and fill out a form. After a considerable wait, Shin finds himself sitting in the guild, surprised by the lengthy process of obtaining a guild card, which takes almost a day. Observing the other adventurers, he notices their modest weapons and armor, realizing they are of lower quality compared to those in the game. Unexpectedly, Celica approaches Shin, expressing gratitude for his patience. She offers him a snack and joins him, encouraging him to taste it. However, Shin becomes uneasy when he notices Celica's gaze fixed on him. She explains that she wants to confirm something, prompting Shin's curiosity. Celica inquires if Shin possesses a letter of introduction from his base, expressing the need to verify its authenticity in another room. Agreeing to the request after finishing his snack, Shin expresses reluctance to meet the guild master so soon. Nonetheless, Celica reveals that the peculiar man from reception is, in fact, the guild master. Identifying himself as Barlux, the guild master leads Shin to a private room. Requesting to see Shin's identification letter from the Moon Sanctum, Barlux places it alongside another letter on the table, causing Shin's letter to emit a faint glow. Barlux confirms the authenticity of Shin's letter, surprising Shin with the thorough verification process. Curious, Barlux inquires about the source of the verification letter, and Shin mentions Tiara as the provider. Barlux realizes there might have been a lapse in Tiara's explanation regarding the verification process, leading to Shin's surprise. Explaining the significance of the identification letter, Barlux emphasizes its vulnerability to theft due to its crucial role. He advises Shin to dispose of the letter if he cannot ensure its safety. However, Shin assures Barlux of his capability to protect it, earning Barlux's approval. Deciding to test Shin's skills, Barlux leaves him exhausted by the end of the day, as he reflects on his plans to raise his rank and awaits Shin's return to the base. Disappointed upon waking up the next day, Shin heads to the guild where Celica greets him. Noticing his changed attire, Celica hands him his guild card and explains the 9 ranks, ranging from SS to S through a to G. She explains to him that he can increase his rank by completing tasks and earning points, adding that he's eligible to undertake tasks 2 ranks higher than his current one. When Shin presents a job involving harvesting hillgrass, she approves it as a suitable task for him. Leaving the guild, Shin embarks on a search for hillgrass but struggles to find any despite hours of effort. Nevertheless, he finds solace in knowing that low-rank equipment is effective against monsters, allowing him to continue his search at a leisurely pace. Suddenly, his sensor detects a nearby monster, prompting him to investigate. Upon encountering the monster, Shin realizes it's of a high level and possesses formidable strength. Despite this, he decides to confront it, only to find his attacks ineffective against it. Surprised by the undead monster wielding a light weapon, Shin removes his limit and delivers a powerful blow that destroys the monster's core in a single hit, causing it to collapse. However, Shin is disappointed as the light sword, which he desired to replace his broken one, disappears into oblivion. Nevertheless, he retrieves a gemstone dropped by the defeated monster, gaining a better understanding of how things operate in the game world and anticipating the fun ahead. Meanwhile, the light sword mysteriously lands in the king's castle, leaving the king's guards bewildered about its origins. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for more anime recaps. The knights contemplate what to do with the sword, and Lady Ryan proposes getting an appraiser to examine its composition. She also suggests investigating who launched the sword into the castle, realizing the launcher must possess significant power. Meanwhile, villagers watch with surprise as wounded soldiers return from their expedition. Shin is curious about what happened to them, and a knight informs him they were attacked in the northern woods by Skullface. Shockingly, only 4 out of the 12 soldiers survived. Shin connects the dots, realizing the soldiers were victims of the wreckage he witnessed in the forest. Additionally, the knight mentions that witnesses saw a sword fly out of the forest and crash into the castle, fortunately without causing any harm. Suspecting Shin might know something, the knight questions him. Shin insists he was merely harvesting hiltgrass and pledges to relay any pertinent information he comes across, as he's the one investigating the case. Shin silently feels sorry for burdening the knight with extra work but is relieved that no one was harmed by the sword. Returning to the Adventurers Guild, he's warmly greeted by Celica. Shin explains that he's there to make a report and wonders if the town's disturbance was linked to Skullface. Celica reveals that an urgent request for extermination was issued due to the incident's proximity to the castle. Curious about Shin's report, she listens as he tells her he defeated Skullface Jack and presents the gem the creature dropped, surprising Celica. Shin describes Skullface's peculiarity, mentioning its ability to shatter his sword. Celica interjects, cautioning Shin that such monsters are formidable foes. Shin, feeling crowded, asks her to respect his personal space, puzzled by her astonishment. Just then, Els enters, advising Shin not to tease her partner. She's been informed about him by Celica, who now shares the news of Shin's victory over Skullface Jack. Although surprised, Els hears Shin explain that he lacks proof, as he didn't bring the creature's armor due to its unimpressive nature. Els explains that Shin can't access the gear without the proper rank, expressing surprise that Shin, who claims to be an adventurer, isn't aware of this. She expresses interest in examining the gem to check for traces of the Skullface's mana. Celica tells Shin they'll be borrowing the gem for this purpose. Shin questions if Skullfaces are common in the forest, to which Els explains that undead are created when mana merges with the grudges of the fallen. She mentions the high death toll in the forest due to monsters, creating ideal conditions for undead. Els clarifies that the mana level of the area shouldn't be sufficient to spawn a Skullface, leading Shin to realize the rarity of the occurrence, especially given that the Skullface was level 359. Surprised by this, Celica decides to hasten the gem's appraisal and asks Els to cover for her at the desk. Shin is impressed that they can determine the monster's strength through appraisal. Els reassures him that he's as strong as a rank party, given his ability to defeat the monster solo. Shin pleads with Els to keep the information about his strength a secret to avoid drawing unwanted attention to himself, and Els assures him she'll maintain his confidentiality. Shin heads to a restaurant and is surprised to see Celica working there, as he didn't anticipate her employment at the establishment. Celica guides him to a table, where he sits, albeit feeling somewhat awkward dining alone. Suddenly, Avis enters the restaurant, capturing everyone's attention as he approaches Shin's table. Shin notices he's carrying the legendary magic spear named Venom, known for its formidable abilities. Avis joins Shin at the table, and Shin introduces himself. Avis inquires if Shin is a new adventurer, to which Shin reveals it's only his 3rd day in the profession. Observing Shin's equipment, Avis remarks it suggests more experience than a newcomer. Shin explains he's not familiar with the usual standards around the castle area, as he's from elsewhere. Understanding Shin's perspective, Avis realizes why Shin didn't react fearfully to his reputation. Shin wonders why people are intimidated by him, prompting Avis to explain he's known as Avis the Vampire for his expertise in hunting undead creatures. Shin initially thought the nickname referred to Avis's complexion, but Avis clarifies it's because venom possesses the drain ability, which absorbs its victim's life force and transfers it to the wielder. Avis harbored concerns that venom might drain his life force unexpectedly. Silica returns with their meals, and they eagerly begin eating. The following day, Shin visits the library, feeling a sense of nostalgia as it's been a while since he last visited one. Hoping to discover something new, he picks up a history book about the kingdom from the shelf. Upon reading, he learns that the kingdom was established approximately 511 years ago, coinciding with the time of the mysterious disappearances. Intrigued, Shin decides to delve deeper into research and discovers that the people in the world he now inhabits are the same as the characters in the game. With his curiosity satisfied, Shin leaves the library, having absorbed all the knowledge he could from the books. Barlux convenes a guild council meeting, announcing the defeat of the Skull Face by the hero adventurer and the examination of the returned gem. The knights express surprise that the Slayer didn't take the Skull Face's armor, deeming it unimpressive. Upon learning that the Skull Face was confirmed to be level 359, Barlux expresses relief at having this information clarified. However, he ponders whether similar monsters are present in the area. A knight reports that soldiers have already been dispatched to investigate, and they anticipate receiving further details the following day. Barlux is aware that Skull Faces are typically active during the night, so he instructs the knights to remain vigilant after dark. One knight expresses curiosity about the unusual weapon wielded by the Skull Face, and who defeated it. Barlux allows discussion about the weapon but respects the Slayer's wish for anonymity. The knight seeks clarification on whether the appearance of the strange sword in the castle is linked to the defeat of the Skull Face. Barlux wonders about the nature of the sword, and the knight reveals it to be a blend of magic steel and mithril, enchanted with light elements. Realizing its potential, they speculate that the sword may rival their nation's royal sword in power. Recognizing the sword's legendary status, Barlux understands the knight's curiosity about the Skullface Slayer. The knight then reveals there's some trouble brewing, prompting concern. Meanwhile, Shin sits by a fountain feeling disheartened by his difficulty in gathering information. As he eats steak, he notices a beast girl watching him and offers her some food. Observing her tiger-like appearance, Shin wonders if she's lost. However, she surprises him by expressing gratitude for the food. Introducing herself as Millie, she appreciates Shin's kindness. Shin introduces himself to Millie and mentions that he's heading home due to the late hour. Curious if Millie is also heading home, she informs him that Avis is coming to pick her up. Shin is surprised to encounter Avis again and wonders if Millie is his child. Avis clarifies that Millie is an orphan from the church but has a knack for sneaking out, and he's responsible for bringing her back. Avis is amazed that Millie has taken a liking to Shin, as she's typically shy. Though Avis intends to take Millie home, she pleads with Shin to help save some foxes in the northern woods. Eventually, Avis escorts Millie home while Shin ponders over Millie's request. He questions why she sought his help but decides to assist since he has no other plans until Shni returns. Recalling a means to contact Shni, Shin resolves to give it a try. The following day, he visits the Moon Sanctum and apologizes to Tiara for forgetting to leave a message earlier. He hands her a sword, instructing Tiara to notify Shni to find him if she recognizes the weapon. Tiara recognizes the sword as an ancient weapon, and Shin identifies it as the Blue Moon, belonging to Shni's world. He explains that only he, Shni, or those they authorize can wield it. Recognizing its immense power, Tiara expresses reluctance, fearing it could overwhelm her. As Shin delves into the sword's composition, he notices Tiara struggling to comprehend and apologizes for overwhelming her. Concerned about Shni's memory of him, Shin entrusts Tiara with the sword and letters to reach him upon Shni's return. He explains the mail system to her, but she questions why he can't directly contact Shni. Shin recounts his failed attempt the previous night, prompting Tiara to question the effectiveness of the items. To test it, Shin steps outside, and a mail promptly appears in front of Tiara, confirming its functionality. Shin deduces that the mail's delivery depends on whether he's met the recipient in the new world or not. Tiara requests a few letters from him, and Shin agrees, as he has some to spare. She explains her aspiration to become a mage and study magic items. In return for delivering his message to Shni, Shin decides to give her some letters. Leaving the Moon Sanctum base, Shin ponders whether Tiara should send one of the letters to her master. Heading to the northern woods, Shin finds himself uncertain about how to save the foxes upon arrival. Despite attempting to venture deeper into the forest, he encounters an impenetrable barrier and hears a voice urging him to leave. Surprised by the mental interference despite his enhanced resistance, Shin interprets it as a warning of formidable opposition ahead, prompting him to press on. Arriving at a shrine, the mental interference dissipates, leading Shin to believe the shrine is the barrier's focal point. Upon entering the shrine, he discovers a wounded fox lying within a magic circle. Finding no traps, Shin rushes to aid the fox, realizing its dire condition. Upon healing it, another barrier breaks nearby, revealing undead soldiers. Determined to prevent further casualties, Shin engages the undead soldiers with his magic sword. However, he is confronted by two new adversaries as fox statues atop pedestals suddenly transform into towering golem foxes. Shocked by their appearance and their formidable level of 674, Shin faces their magical attacks, noting the erratic behavior caused by their aura. Shin resolves to contain the foxes to prevent them from causing further harm. Employing shadows, he immobilizes them, but they retaliate by creating a smokescreen that inadvertently harms the injured fox he is trying to rescue. Faced with the fox's aggression, Shin hastens to end the battle, only to realize his shadow manipulation has waned. Preparing to unleash his full power, Shin is redirected by the injured fox towards the magic circle it occupied. Relieved that the smokescreen did not affect the magic circles, Shin capitalizes on this, prompting the foxes to notice as well. Despite their charge, he ensnares them with magic chains and delivers a decisive blow with his magic spear. With the miasma dispersed, Shin examines the features of the small fox, identifying it as an elemental tail. Surprised by its diminutive size compared to others of its kind, Shin decides to make it his companion. Meanwhile, Shni receives a magical letter from Tiara, prompting her curiosity about how Tiara obtained such an item. Upon opening the letter, Shni is taken aback by its contents. This brings an end to our episode 2. If you enjoy it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.